was from the Valley, from Fresno, so it was a novelist. He did the Stegner Fellowship at Stanford, which I'm also doing right now. And he was probably the last president to do it. There's only been a few. And he wrote this book, Parrot in the Oven, which he won the National Book Award for. It was the first Xicano to do so. And but lived right here in the Mission for most of his life. More time here than probably in Fresno. But I only got to meet him once, but I was close with his brother, or I know his brother, Ramiro, who's a muralist out in Fresno, so this is for both of them. Southpaw Curse, for Ramiro and Victor Martinez. 1, to begin, Fresno, y también un Fresno. Weeping a stench of ash, exhausted by fumes and cut grass you can't smell from the I-5. Look beyond Arax's tails at the thumb pressed firmly upon 2 pruning arms tearing through the sinuous shoulders of smoking palm fronds you'll mistake for Fireball, Mendota, or maybe Kerman. Later, the spilled milk sours when little Josefo's hands return from the hoe with calluses of brown skin hardened over bloody soil, just like the lunar on Tia's face. 2. The parrot still migrates with the geese along the old Golden State toward the water treatment plant on Jensen. Knobs of aborted bulbs form praying fingers instead of irises. Delfino trims his nails against the fan blade of his work truck. The wailing escapes through broken windows into a horror of muted dust, 5W30, and light. Later, Ramiro parks his elliptical bike in Tokyo Garden, goes inside and drinks 2 bottles of warm sake and reads Parrot in the Oven in the voice of Burgess Meredith. His mouth labors over words like tomato and lightning. He leaves rubbing his throat, still with much more to say. 3, an airplane drops a white cloud upon brown bodies. Powder sifts gently onto eyebrows, wrists, and shoelaces. Mothers instruct small children to hide under the vines. The good ones die before 40. The rest of us wake up with swollen feet and nosebleeds. Later, Josefo kicks an empty bottle across the alley, then vomits beneath a honeybee with 4 sagging breasts. Ramiro searches for Aloy above scaffolding at Broadway. Victor appears behind the orange globe in American Spirit. A police siren screams again and again and again. Does no one else hear that? 4, the Central Valley is an aging fruit tree breaking concrete with the knuckles of its toes. The sidewalks stay warm under naked feet, slapping from one street lamp to the next. The parrot places his head in the oven to escape the cancer hiding in every breath. When eulogized, the priest will mistake this for mercy. Later, carved letters appear on an ash tree that must outgrow its ambivalence. The letters read, I am the American. Wait. There's a lot of elegies in here, and a lot of elegies in this book, a lot of elegies in the poems that I write. And sometimes they don't start out that way. Sometimes I write them, and then the person passes, and then it's a elegy. So there are certain people that were alive when I wrote this and are no longer with us, or are with us in other ways. And one of them was Michelle Cedros. Anybody a fan of her work? They just, there's just a book, like an academic book that just came out about her poetry. Is a doctoral dissertation that was converted into a book that came out of University of Pittsburgh Press just this month. And they used, the author used this poem to close out the text. And it's called To Doña Cedros from Bespectacled Joven. So her last reading actually that she ever did before she passed away, public reading, was at Galleria when it was here on 24th Street. And she had like a throat cancer, so it was very hard. It was funny that you pulled away that bullhorn because she used the bullhorn on that night because her voice was it was so hard for her to like project her voice at that point. And yeah, she was just a really beautiful lady and just so kind and generous. And one of the things she told me when I first met her, it was months into our friendship before I finally said, hey, Michelle, like, I was all nervous. They were like having lunch or something. I was like, do you think that you might like read some of my writing? And it had been months. We have gone to movies, concerts, and everything, and not once that we talked about writing. And I think you'd sit down and read some of my writing? And she looked at me and she was like, I told myself years ago that I'd stop helping Chicano men with their writing careers. And I was like shook. I was like 23 years old. I was like, okay. You know? And she goes, but what do you got? You know? And I was like, well, I'm working on this manuscript, and you know, she's like, well, what do you want? What do you want from me? And I was like, I don't know, like just read it if it's okay, like if it's good. And she's like, fine. She's like, I'm not gonna do any like long feedback. I'll just tell you. And then so, you know, and so she literally, all she said was, you're on the right track, kid. Like, she just read it. That was the whole feedback. She read I don't know if she read the whole manuscript, but she read enough, and then she goes, you're doing all right, kid. You know, like, and that was, yeah, so, but yeah, she was very near and dear to me, and she passed away when she was living in Berkeley, and her husband used to run Flacco's Tacos, the vegan taco joint in Berkeley, right by Ashby Park. And so this is Tu Doña Cerros, for Michelle Cerros, 1966 to 2015. God, it's 9 years ago. This could have been an ode to your fur coat, to your gold shoes stuck in the mud outside Salinas, to tilled acres, to grandmothers that live in the house, to poets reading poems at Lollapalooza, to cassettes and cassette tape iPhone cases, to water tower selfies in strange front yards, to wide-laced hats, comadre-only tea times, vegan tamales, 50-year-old quinceañeras, and East LA punk bands named Edward James Olmos. Begging your pardon, Doña, your joven should be writing an ode to the bullhorn you used at the gallery in La Misión, San Pancho. I should be writing an ode to La Mickey, to La Giggles, and La Chicana Falsa's whispers, extinguishing sounds from lips, an ode to whispers, fishing laughs from bellies, whispers draining eyes of their tears, whispers lifting asses from seats, some loud-ass street dude making a mess in aisle 5, fierce incantatory whispers, pulling hands into other hands, clap, 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 clapping, more tears, an ode to tears, an ode to laughter, an ode to Diaz who said you never become a writer, nunca, and that moon. That moon over 24th Street, just as loud as gold shoes in the mud, loud as wide-laced hats, loud as a fake fur coat, loud as candle flames on a dark night in Berkeley, dark like the night you left. An ode to the darkness for making us see that moon, those candles, an ode to Celia's prayer, to Esther's bracelets lifted in the air, an ode to holding hands in bedroom and living room, down steps, floating, more tears, floating over neighbors' tossed white petals, that candlelight again, that moon again, floating into the big limousine. Do you remember, Doña? Do you remember how the moon came to see you off down Ashby, Adeline, Broadway, to Oxnard, to Oxnard? I should be writing an ode to the sea, and Oxnard, and Oxnard. And I know you left us on a skateboard, stinker kick pushed over fresh streets, swerving under bent knees around the cliffs on the 101, your hand, your fingers, waving in the breeze to the waves, to the sand, to the sun, to the fields, and all those pretty goddamn things. I should be writing an ode to your fingers. Don't leave, Doña. Your fingers, you're still kicking, you're still pushing, gliding. Your fingers gently brush the repeating yellow lines on the road. Gone. In there, probably close with this one. This one, I'm just gonna do it for just because Josiah likes to hear my impersonation of Juan Felipe. So I went to the community writers workshop. This was 2016 or something. And Juan Felipe was one of the teachers there, and Even though we're both from Fresno, I hadn't met him before then, and he every day you have to write a new poem. So after the first night, it's set up like a poet camp, like it's like summer camp for poets. And so we're there with like plastic trays and like food and stuff, So like they're sitting at dinner, and I'm like holding my tray, and Monthly was already sitting down, and I asked them, I feel like I gave everything to my first poem. I don't think I can write 4 more poems over the next 4 days. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so I'm like, just again, holding the tray, sitting down, I just like, how do you keep it up? How do you keep writing every single day and coming out with new stuff? And he's like, that's a good question, stamina, okay. He's like, see, it's what happens is you try to write a big poem, big. You want to write everything in the poem, And he's like, you get real tired, do that for like 45 minutes. 45 minutes, yeah. He's like, and you write a little poem. Think about all the ways you could say the word blue. Just write it in a little poem. He's like, and then you go back to your big poem. Or you write a little poem that could be a mural. Yeah, big mural, 1 word, poem. And I was like, all right, get a little fruit cup, like dinner roll. And he's like, hey, you like music? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, a little playlist. Write a little playlist. See what happens. I don't know. Little playlist. Yeah. 5 poems. Playlist. Little poem. Big poem. That's why he's the U.S. Poet Laureate, So I went and wrote this playlist, right? So it came out. This is what came from that prompt, and this was like I wrote the second day of that week. And it's actually funner to do that than actually to read the poem. But it's called Little, and it's dedicated to Art LeBeau, the late oldies DJ. So Little Anthony on the outside. Car speakers. The town I lived in is lonely. The Midnighters. Why can't we live together? Timmy Thomas. The love we had stays on my mind. The Dells. Be thankful for what you got. William Devon. The world is a ghetto. War. It's okay. The sun glows. To be loved, Jackie Wilson. The world is a ghetto. War. It's okay. The sun glows. To be loved, Jackie Wilson. It's okay. The sun glows. To be loved, Jackie Wilson. I reach for the dial and discover I can bend the moonlight by turning the dial on this old radio. Art LeBeau talks to a man who claims to be from Avenal, California. It's his little girl's birthday and he's missed a few. He asks for the stylistics. You know the one. You're a big girl now. The producer tells Art, man, no one's really from Avenal. The producer reminds Art, no one's like really from Avenal. I reach for the dial and discover I can bend the moonlight into a glowing, smiling now or crying later crescent, just as easily by turning the dial on this old radio. I'm driving out near San Joaquin because I didn't know what else to do. A man tells Art LeBeau he's lived in Corcoran for 11 years, hasn't been out just as long. He requests the song by the Dramatics, the one about rain. So I can remember, the Corcoran man says. I reach for the dial and discover I can bend the moonlight so it enters the windows of this car, through the passenger side and onto my girl's face, and damn, she looks fine. We're on the 46 headed to Pismo, gonna make a fire and camp up there on the beach, real romantic like. A man from Wasco tells Art he's been away so long, his old lady of 8 years has already got a new dude up in the house, but he's not even tripping. The Wasco man requests the song Daddy's Home by Shep and the Limelights. The producer tells Art, man, no one's really from Wasco. The producer reminds Art, no one's really from Wasco, Art. Art, he says, you've been misled. Art, tell me, why do you insist on taking calls from these jokers? Art responds, I reached for the dial long ago and discovered I could bend the moonlight by turning the dial on this old radio. In the proper frequency, the light reaches towns you and I have never seen. Like Wasco, like Avenal, like Corcoran, others like Kern, like Chino, like Centinela, like Chowchilla. towns where corporations profit from caged human beings. This light jumps fences. It enters through the thickest of concrete walls. It opens locked iron doors, producer. The light has a need for windows. A good Catholic recalls the rule of intercession. I ask, what is a call but a prayer yet to be answered? The caged birds pray and art intercedes. I carry their plea. I awaken the memories cataloged in the vinyl ridges of each song. I am the needle under the master's hand. Thank you all.
One more time, por favor, yeah.